Since the riots began, more than 420 people have been arrested. In a minute, we'll speak to Tiffany Lynch. She's the National Chair of the Police Federation of England and Wales. And we'll also talk to Lee Bates. He's Chief Executive of Community Together in Tamworth, hit by last night's riots. First, Tom Witherow, news reporter at The Times. He's been covering the story very closely. Tom, thanks for joining us. What will they have been talking about in Cobra this morning? The obvious things: policing, police resources. Online as well, Keir Starmer was talking about there.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is that they'll want to make sure that there are enough resources around the country so that when riots, which are either planned, which gives police intelligence sometimes prepare for them, come up, or if they are coming up in a more spontaneous manner, which is, I think we can throw Tamworth last night into that. It wasn't one that us as reporters were expecting. That they've got the resource they need to physically protect these buildings and the communities who live in them and locals who live nearby. You know, I was in Rotherham last night with the where a migrant hotel was attacked, and it's right on the edge of quite a well-to-do estate on the edge of the town. And it wasn't just the hotel that was at risk. There were stones and rocks being thrown through residential streets past, brand new BMWs and smart cars. So that'll be number one. And then number two, as you say, is these riots are being publicized on social media. I mean, we've actually witnessed this morning, and you can read it live on the Times live blog. I mean, it feels like an episode of Black Mirror of a Telegram group where a far-right organizer has posted 39 targets for a coordinated attack, which could take place midweek. I mean, we're not naming the targets and we're not naming the time and place of that. And then we've watched as that's been shared outside of the Telegram platform on Twitter, even by some people who claim to be doing good. I mean, I read one post that said, "I've told the police about this. They're aware of it. These are the targets." And then it was only when people pointed out that perhaps they were part of the problem and the post had been seen by 125,000 people that they took it down. So you can only imagine.
So, Tom, you can see this happening live.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, that post was this morning, and we can see, useful idiots as well as malicious actors spreading this far and wide.
Just briefly, Tom, what's the likelihood of Parliament being recalled, do you think? Nigel Farage calling from that this morning.
Well, you'd be best speaking to my political colleagues in the lobby for that. I think the police feel like they have the resources they need. They feel like they have the legal resources they need to counter this. We've seen a large number of arrests, many hundreds. The first people are appearing in the magistrates' courts today, accused of things like public disorder and assault on police officers and carrying bladed articles, that sort of thing. So, if Parliament was going to pass emergency legislation, you'd have to wonder what it was. We know that Keir Starmer does see justice as a key response to this, and he wants to see officers taking a tough line. And that conversation about 24-hour courts, mirroring what happened in 2011 after the London riots following the killing of Mark Duggan, reflect that.
Tom, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much. Tom Witherow, news reporter at The Times there. And let's talk to Lee Bates. He's the Chief Executive of Community Together in Tamworth, his project involved in today's clean-up operation following last night's riots in the town. Lee, thank you for joining us. Just tell us what happened last night.
Yeah, well, the scenes that we saw in Tamworth were obviously absolutely shocking, and in no way was a protest, but really people intending in causing criminal damage. And it was very upsetting to see, because obviously that's not who we are as a town or, as a community. And these things can easily sort of, like we talked about, social media and how other groups from other areas can sort of latch on to these so-called peaceful protests. So it was absolutely shocking. Everybody's condemning it, obviously. And, sort of nobody can imagine what the residents inside the hotel or the police officers who were on duty were going through and being confronted with such violence and anger.
How did it all kick off? What did a crowd gather outside the hotel where some immigrants are being housed?
Yeah, so in Tamworth we have the Holiday Inn Express here, And of course, the site isn't just home to the Holiday Inn Express; it's also home to the Snowdome Leisure Centre. So that had to close last night for the safety of their customers. And again, I think kind of this misinformation that gets spread online, it really started around a Facebook post that was put on about asylum seekers following a 15-year-old girl. That was proven not to be the case. They were in fact not even from Tamworth, these people. So all asylum seekers. So that got taken down. But then somebody from the community then set up a Facebook page called Together Tamworth, that was setting up this or suggesting a protest take place. That Facebook page has since been taken down, but then obviously others have latched onto that and created event posts yesterday, etc. And then others, sort of other Facebook pages which are sort of regional or national, then were sharing it. So it's obviously, that whip up of misinformation and anger sort of shows how social media can have an impact.
This is a great example of how it can all just whip up so quickly, isn't it? But just moving on, just tell us about what's happening with the cleanup today. Your organisation is part of it.
Yeah, so essentially what's happening today, and this is where that true reflection of that this doesn't represent us as a community here in Tamworth, that residents are getting together voluntarily to help persist with the cleanup, because it spread from the hotel then into the castle grounds and into the town centre. So so residents have come forward, giving their own time to help with the cleanup. We've opened up our community cafe to offer free drinks to anybody that's helping today, and refreshments. And whilst last night's events were shocking, overwhelmingly majority of people in Tamworth are that doesn't represent them at all, and are showing that today by coming out and helping.
Thank you very much. Lee Bates, Chief Executive of Community Together in Tamworth. Let's speak now to Tiffany Lynch. She's the Acting National Chair of the Police Federation of England and Wales. Tiffany, thank you for joining us. Can you just tell us something of what you're hearing from your members? We know police have been injured over the last few days. What are the stories you're hearing back from them?
Yes, what we're actually seeing, and our officers out there that are working incredibly hard for extended periods of duty, it is unprecedented. And the violence that they're actually facing, some have never faced before in their careers. We know of recorded injuries where we've had broken bones, concussion, and such like. But we're also seeing that these officers are working extended long hours, and with the level of violence that they're facing, they will be becoming fatigued at some point.
What about resources? Do the police have enough resources to do what they need to do? And what is actually being done in terms of resourcing? So cancelling of leave, all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. You will see that the resourcing in terms of what police forces are able to put out and mobilise. This isn't something new in terms of the mutual aid across the country. Forces, neighbouring forces, or even forces from one end of the country to the other, we're quite used to giving that support to the force that requires it. But we haven't got an infinite amount of officers or police officers that we can pull from cupboards to go out and police these incidents. They will be having their rest days cancelled. They'll be pulled off of shifts or specialist departments to actually prioritise what is a national priority.
What about this accusation of two-tier policing? Nigel Farage was saying this again this morning, suggesting that there is two-tier policing. The police act differently depending upon whom they are facing. Do you think that's true?
No, I don't think it's true. We are a police service that polices by consent. We base our mobilisation on the intelligence that comes forward and the legislation that is there. We're there to uphold the law, to protect property, and to protect our citizens across the country, irrespective of who they are and where they're from.
And how would you compare it to what happened in 2011, the riots? A lot of people are making the comparison with those riots. Very different in nature and the cause, but do you see similarities or differences?
In terms of the level of violence that our officers are facing, it's a similar level. The difference that we've got here is that the 2011 riots were predominantly London-based, what we're now finding is these incidents are coming up all across the country, in pockets of the country, which is obviously adding pressure into the intelligence and the mobilisation